Now, ladies and gentlemen, women. This is our second class on the topic. We started on Sunday night. So let's quickly reread Pasuk Chav Beis and Chav Gimel. Okay? As I explained to you at length on Sunday, the Beis Hamikdash was built. It sat in storage for a while, the whole Tevis, the whole Shvat, and most of Adar, almost 3 months. And then Hashem said, put it up and take it down, and put it up and take it down, and put it up and take it down, put it up and take it down, put it up and take it down, and so forth. Right? As many as 21 times. According to those opinions that they say each day for a week they put it up and took it down 3 times. For the morning, for the Miluyim, and for the afternoon, they were busy. Then came the 8th day, Parsha Shmini. The 8th day was Rosh Chodesh Nisan, was the first of the month of Nisan, which also was a Sunday, and it was the most eventful day. Obviously, this was the day that Nachshon ben Amminadab brought his offering as the first of the 12 Nesiim. It was the first day of actual service in the Beis Hamikdash, and a bunch of other firsts. It was a first for many, many things. The Seder Elam says it was a first for 10 things. And of course, the personality at the center of this day was Aharon HaKohen. And there was a very serious, very palpable apprehension that surrounded this day, because, especially in the opinion of Rashi, I'm not going to say this is uniformly held, but especially in the opinion of Rashi, because the Beis HaMikdash was a reaction to the sin of the golden calf, Egel HaZahav. And Aaron made it. And now he's atoning for it. Kach l'cha Egel, says Rashi, l'chapar al-veina Egel, Yavei para, Ukaneach Tzeyaz B'nah, bring a cow and let her wipe away the filth of her calf, of her child. So is it going to work? So Aaron goes in, he's afraid, he's embarrassed, Moshe pushes him. I suppose, I said this on Sunday night, I don't know why, what's my source, but it just sounds very good. The only one who was absolutely confident this would work was Moshe Rabbeinu. You know why? Because he wasn't involved. Moshe was the tzaddik in this whole situation, he was sure it was going to work. And he pushes Aaron, and Aaron does the service, the whole Klal Yisrael is watching. He does it all. He does everything he has to do. Did you take a copy on Sunday? No. Okay, so please take one out. And he does it all. And then it says in Pasuk Chav Beis, let's read it quickly. Vayisa Aaron es yadav ala'om vayavarachem. Aaron HaKohen raises his hands over the people and he blesses them. The word El doesn't mean over. It means towards. Al would mean over. El with an aleph means towards. Vayavarachem, and he blesses them. Vayered, and he descends from the altar me'aseis ha'chatas v'ha'elav ha'shlam, for bringing the various offerings, the chatas, elav, v'shlam. Then it says, Vayavei Moshe v'Aaron alei omeid. Moshe and Aaron enter into the tent of meeting. Vayetu, and they come out. Vayavarach osam, and they bless the people a second time. And Rashi says about this second blessing, that the second blessing was V'hi noyem adashem alekeinu aleinu. Umaz yadeinu nekeinu aleinu, umaz yadeinu kaineu. Moshe Rabbeinu gave them a bracha that the Eibishter sheyishra shechina b'masa yadeyim, that the shechina should rest in their handiwork. And then Vayir okvei davai al kolam, the Eibishter appeared. What they had all hoped for, what they were also apprehensive about, what they were so unsure of. Would the Shechina come down? Could the Yidden and Aaron HaKohen do tshuva so properly, so holy, so comprehensively that the Eibishter would actually honor them by appearing? And he does. And then Chavdalat says, Vateitzi eish m'lifnei Hashem, a fire comes out before the Eibishter, Vatechel al HaMazbech, it descends onto the altar, and it eats up the karbanos. Now, all the people saw and they shabachu, they sang, they praised the Eibishter, they fell on their faces. Now, you should know that fire that came down never left. Once that fire came down from heaven, it stayed on the Mizbeach. There was Eish min hashamayim, a fire came from heaven, and the Gemara says, Revutza kari. The appearance of this fire was like a crouching lion. And the mitzvah was Afapi she'esh yer min hashamayim mitzvah lahavim min hahedit. There was a special mitzvah to bring a carbon of fire itself. Right? There was many carbonas brought to the Mizbeach. One of the carbonas was the carbon of fire itself. That even though Hashem provided the fire, every day they would make a fire. This is the beginning of Parsha Tzav. So this fire came down and it stayed on the Mizbeach. And the Chazal tell us that when the Eibishter was angry at the Jewish people, instead of looking like a crouching dog, it looked like a crouching lion. It looked like a kelev, like a dog. In Torah, a dog is not so honorable. In civilization, in society, a dog is man's best friend. But Mipnei Sivis, I don't know exactly why this is. Torah thinks of a dog as not such an honorable animal. And in the Beis HaMikdash, when the Eibishter was angry with the Jewish people, the fire had a different appearance. So the fire that descends remained manifest. So the story is very simple. They were hoping the Shekhinah would rest. They did all the Karbanos, and the Shekhinah rested. But between doing the Karbanos and the Shekhinah resting, two things happened. Pasuk Chav Beis and Pasuk Chav Gimel. Pasuk Chav Beis is Aaron is standing on the Mizbeach and he gives the Jewish people a Bracha and then he comes down. Pasuk Chav Gimel is Moshe and Aharon go into the Beis HaMikdash. What they did inside we don't know. They came out and they blessed Yidden again. And then the Eibishter appeared and then the fire came down from heaven. Now, we're not doing Chav Gimel. Chav Gimel is whatever. Theoretically next year. We're doing Chav Beis. And there are many opinions about Pasuk Chav Beis. Okay? The first question is, did Moshe Rabbeinu give Yidden a bracha on the Mizbeach while standing on the altar? And the Even HaEzer says, of course not. You do what you got to do and you get off. Aaron did not stand on the Mizbeach and use it as a pulpit, as a platform for speeches. Aaron did what he had to do, he got off the Mizbeach and then he blessed the Jewish people. Rashi, as the Rebbe interprets it, in the Sikha that we learned, as well as many other commentators say, no, Moshe Rabbeinu, Aaron HaKohen blessed the Jewish people while standing on the Mizbeach. That's first one. Why? Because he was blessing them for the Mizbeach. The blessing was a hemshech, was a continuation of the Karbanis. He says, listen, I'm representing you for the atonement of Chet HaEgel. I'm actually part of the problem. So I bless you that I shouldn't be between you and the Eibishter forgiving you. This was the bracha. He stood on the Mizbeach, Yevarechecha Hashem. The Eibishter should bless you and look past me, and the V'yishmerecha, he should accept your karbanis and so forth. This is Rashi's opinion. So he blesses them on the Mizbeach. This is a blessing that's specific. Aaron says, I am the Eibishter's chosen representative for you to effect his atonement. I bless you that the Eibishter should disregard my imperfections and allow the atonement to be effective, and the Shekhinah should rest as occurs, in fact. This is Rashi's opinion. So he gives him a bracha on the Mizbeach. Other opinions disagree. We talked about it. This is not a review of Sunday night's class that's meant to take up half of tonight's class. But there were two other observations. One of them was, what was the bracha? Rashi says it was the bracha of Birchas Koyanim. The Rebbe in Esicha explained to us that Aaron HaKohen used the words Yivarecha Yar Yisa, but this was not duchening. He wasn't blessing the Jewish people like a Kohen of duchens. This was his own personal initiative. Or as we discussed it Sunday night, it's as if you were to say Aaron HaKohen on his own invented the bracha Yivarecha Hashem v'yishmerecha, Yoyer Hashem panav elecha v'choneka, Yisa Hashem panav elecha v'chashalom, and then the Eibishter corroborated it. When Aaron gave the bracha Yivarecha, this was his own bracha. It was his own bracha because this was the way he was blessing the Jews for the issue that he was blessing them with, that Hashem should not see him as an obstacle between them and the Eibishter's kapara. Then the Eibishter says, I like this bracha. If you look on page 17, there's a Panam Yafes, which I didn't read because of a variety of reasons. If you could quickly look at 17. On the left side of the page, the left side of the page, 6 lines before the end of the paragraph, it says, Ela al korchach lav nitztavu. They were not commanded to duchen. Va'aren beruach hakodesh niskaven lemash nitztavu achakach. Aaron with divine inspiration, page 17. Aaron with divine inspiration said the same bracha that the Jewish people would be given, that the Kohanim would be given letter to bless the Jewish people. You hear this? What he holds. When it says Aaron gave the same bracha we all know as duchening, but he wasn't duchening. He wasn't doing a mitzvah of the Eibishter. It was his own personal bracha, and then of course the Eibishter made this the permanent blessing that the Eibishter that the Kohen blessed the Jewish people. This is Rashi's opinion. Others say no, that this was actually duchening. That Ramban says the bracha was something totally different, had nothing to do with Birchas Kohanim and so on. Okay. And the third point was the Vayisa Aaron es Yodov. And if you look at the word Yadav, there's a Yud missing. It's written as if it says Yadoi. Aaron raised his hand in singular. And if you were here on Sunday night, you recall that we finished off the class with Rabbeinu Bachaya, who speaks in uncharacteristically sharp language against those who interpret this as Aaron raising only one hand, as if he were just pointing at the Jewish people, rather than raising both hands. And he very, very, very emotionally objects to that idea, because apparently there were Goyim, there were some other peoples who interpreted it as if Aaron raised one hand, which is a custom in other religions. And Rabbi Bachai says, no, he raised both hands, and this was the typical Indian of Nesiyas Kapayim. Okay, those are our three issues. To summarize again, the question was, did he bench them on the Mizbeach or off the Mizbeach? The position that we are, so to speak, settling on, according to Rashi, is that he blessed them on the Mizbeach. What was the blessing? There's many opinions about that. Rashi holds it was Birchas Kohanim, but it wasn't the mitzvah of Birchas Kohanim. It was a Birchas Kohanim for which he volunteered. And lastly, the diok that it says Vayisa Adnas Yadai, and it's read Yadav. He raised one hand, then he raised both hands, but they're described as being one hand. What is the significance of this? We're ready now, so to speak, to start tonight's class. Here's what I want to do. Tonight's class is going to focus almost entirely on the Yada Yadav issue. It's going to be a very, very mystical class. There's a very interesting Arizal, which I hope to communicate clearly, because Arizal is so concise. It's mamish individual words. We're going to be focusing a lot on why the Torah describes it as one hand when it's in fact two hands, or it's, even though it was two hands, it's written as if it were one hand. That's going to be, so to speak, the preeminent point of the class. But before we get to that point, I would like to learn with you an Erech Chaim HaKadosh. The Erech Chaim HaKadosh is addressing a different question. In other words, I want to sort of speak, rewind the tape and slow down just a little bit. Right? The Torah tells us that the 8th day came. They did the service. Everything was done. Aaron is standing on the Mizbeach. He blesses the Jewish people and he gets off the altar. Right? Why? So according to those opinions who say that he blessed them while standing on the altar, because somehow that bracha had to do with the Kabbalas. So I would like you to look on page 2. We're going to begin with the Erech Chaim HaKadosh. It's just a further interpretation, further insight into the Rashian position that he gave them a bracha while still standing on the Mizbeach. Page 2 at the bottom. Vayise Aharon veGoimer quotes the Erech Chaim as follows: B'Teiras Kain in Parsha Chavtes Amru, it says in Safra, it says in Medrash, that Mikra Mesuras. This pasuk is not written in order, and the way you should read it is as follows. Royal it should really have said Vayedet Mi'aseis veGoimer. He went off the Mizbeach, and after he went off the Mizbeach, Vayisa Aharon veGoimer, he raised his hands. Shabiri Dasi, after he descended, Nosva Kappa v'Chuli, he raised his hands. So the Erech Chaim disagrees with the Teiras Kain, and he says like this: V'tzarich ladas, Lama Yedaber HaKosov b'derech zeh. Why would the Torah say something it doesn't mean, and then you have to say, well, it doesn't mean this, it means this? V'lei b'derech hayosh. Why not say it straight? He came off the Mizbeach and he blessed. Why does it have to say he blessed and then came off the Mizbeach? And you say, well, it really means first he came off and then he blessed. So he says 3 points. Number 1, v'ulai, perhaps. Aaron did the service and he saw Shalai yard the Shechina has not yet descended. Chashav, he thought, ulai, perhaps, ki adayin choser kaparas, there's something deficient about his atonement. Al ma'iseh ha'egel, on the act of creating the golden calf, sheb'emtza'u soy, that with his being in the middle of it, hevi klala al sen Yisrael, brought a curse to the enemies of the Jews, which is, of course, a nice way of saying to the Yidden themselves. Ulazeh, he brought all the karbanos. The Shechina hasn't rested. So before getting off the Mizbeach, he raises his hands and he blesses the Jewish people. And afterwards, Yarad, he descends from doing the end of the sin offering and so forth. In other words, the Erech Chaim is proposing what Rashi says that he gave in the bracha on the Mizbeach, as though the bracha were a continuation of the chatas. It's a continuation of the sin offering. That's one insight. Another interpretation is Kigam Birchas Yisrael that the blessing that he gave the Jewish people, litzad, in as much, she kaparas chat shel Aaron, it's an atonement for the sin of Aaron HaKohen, tuchlal b'kol hachatas, it's a part of the carbon. The bracha is a part of the carbon. Ki gam lo, yisyachas shem chatas. Sometimes a blessing can be included. Chatas means a sin offering, an offering of atonement. The bracha was part of the Eibishter's atonement. So Aaron gives the bracha while standing on the mizbeach because it's a part of the chatas. V'oimer, and then it says Vayered he descended. I'm sorry, I'm reading it wrong. V'oimer, and then when it says Vayered he descended, ulai, perhaps it means ki lashen yerida. This means he went down a level. Ki hukale pchisusay. Aaron recognized his own lowliness. L'tzad shara, because he saw shagam ma'aseh sakel, he finished all the services. He gave the bracha, and still v'layar the shechina still did not descend. So therefore, the Rechaim proposes a very original interpretation. He says like this: he finished all the work. The Shechina didn't rest. He gave the Yidden the bracha. The Shechina still didn't rest, so he went down. Went down doesn't mean physically went down. Went down means spiritually. He says, look at me, what a failure. Vayered, he fell. His level fell. Look at me, I failed. This is what the Rechaim HaKadosh adds. But in any case, what's kind of clear from the Rechaim HaKadosh is that he's inclined, like Rashi says, to interpret the bracha as being on the mizbeach as a part of the karbonos, which is supposed to set the stage for the chet ha'egel, for the hashras hashchina, which is a sign of atonement for the chet ha'egel. Now, let's move on. The Rabbeinu Bechaya told us that Moshe Rabbeinu Aaron HaKohen raised both hands and blessed the Jewish people. Now, the Mefarshim that we read on Sunday night argue what was the bracha. Correct? The Even Ezer says it was actually the bracha Birchas Kohanim. Rashi says it was the same words of bracha Birchas Kohanim, but it wasn't Birchas Kohanim. The Ramban says it was a totally different bracha. It was a bracha that we don't know what it was, a totally different bracha. Okay? But in the Gemara, we learn halachas of duchening from this pasuk. How do you know that when a kohen in duchen, he raises his hand? From this parsha, by Yisad, he raises his hands. And I discussed in some detail with you on Sunday night the idea that when a kohen duchen, he raises his hands, it's an inyan from Merkava, on which the Shechina rests, like in a concept of Keruvim. So, halacha actually derives from our pasuk, the procedure for duchening, although on a pshat level, we're not even sure if he duchened altogether. He may have said different words. And even if he duchened, he wasn't duchening as the mitzvah of duchening, he was just giving them the brachas of Yivracha Hashem v'yishmerecha and so forth. But keep in mind that the fact is that our pasuk says Aaron gave a bracha and he raised his hand, and this is how kohenim duchen. We learn from here that when a kohen gives a bracha, he raises his hand, and the significance, as I told you on Sunday night, the significance of his raising his hand is to give a place for the Shekhinah to manifest and so forth and so on. Okay? This is what you have to keep in mind. So the Rabbeinu Bechaya says that there were these people, whom the Rabbeinu Bechaya obviously has very little love for, who says that he only raised one hand. And he implies that he was pointing at the Jewish people, over them. And Rabbeinu Chaim said that's wrong. It means he raised both hands, and it doesn't mean he raised them towards the Jewish people. He raised them so the Shekhinah should manifest and so forth. When you read it Rabbeinu Bechaya, you wonder why he's so emotional. No? Okay, so you disagree. You don't say it was one hand, you would say it's both hands. Why the emotion? And evidently this was an opinion held by some kind of, no good nicks, goyim or apokursim, and Rabbeinu Bechaya feels compelled to attack them very critically and say it's wrong. The manifestation of the Shekhinah, the bracha that Aaron HaKohen gave was for both of his hands. So the question is, what's the meaning of the Kri and the Ksiv? What's called Mesiris and Mikra. The tradition is that you read it Yadai, and the Mikra, the way it's actually pronounced, is Yadav. Why would the Torah say Aaron raised his hand and mean he raised his hands? Plurally. Why doesn't it say the Kri and the Ksiv should be the same? If he raised both hands, there should be the Yud. This is the question. And this question, Ma'ariv Rabbi say, becomes the basis, more or less, for tonight's class. Does anybody wish to comment at this juncture? Does anybody wish to comment?
I wanted just to ask you something. Why do you go and separate their fingers?
It has to do with the aces of Shem Havaya. With the letters of Yud Kei Vav Kei. So
It's written without the yud, but it's pronounced with the yud.
Exactly. It's written as if it says hand, and it's read as if it says hands.
When you say mikra and masoras, mikra is
The way you pronounce it. And Messiah is the way it was written down, the tradition. Page 15, the Arizal. Now I did took out my calculator and I did a little counting, and there's a bunch of gematrias. I don't think there's a single one that's exact. I want to say this by way of introduction. I know that people love gematrias. It just doesn't fancy my tickle. It doesn't work for me, gematrias. I'm not tickled by them. I love Kabbalah, but I love the Havana. I don't love the numbers. The mathematics just doesn't work for me. This is the shtickle Arizal, which is completely gematrias. I'm not even going to give you time to count it up. You'll do it on your own. Okay? I want to get to the point, because the point is very interesting. Remember the question. The question is, Aaron HaKohen raises his hands, and the Ben Bechaya says, excuse me, both hands. And the raising the both hands is not so much to, so to speak, suspend them over the Jewish people, but rather to create a conduit, a lavush, like kruvim, for the Shekhinah to rest. And he says it's both hands and not one hand. Yet it's written in the text, yodoi, as if it were one hand. Why do you say one and mean two? Right? Correct? Why do you say one and mean two? And he mentions, the Ben Bechai already mentioned the same thing that the Rikanti says on page 14, that the reason he says hand, and he means hands, is to put preeminence, to put the idea that chesed is stronger than gevurah. Taka raised both hands, but both hands became like the right hand, like a concept of chesed. Okay? Now we read the Arizal. The Arizal is interesting. So here we go. I don't know how much I circle. I spent a lot of time on my page today. Yes, you have the circles, we don't have the numbers. Vayisa Aaron es yadav ala'am vayabarachem. Aaron raised his hands towards the people and he blessed them. I circled the word Aaron and I circled the word El Ha'om. Okay? Says he da. You should know. Ki Haran. What's Haran? The last three letters of Aaron's name. Bimiluye kazeh hey reish nun he gematria keze. The three letters hey reish nun of Aharon's name. If you know how to do mathematics correctly, and you know how to do mathematics according to Kabbalistic tweak and emphasis, it equals 620 kesef. Aaron's name has four letters. Aleph, Hey, Reish, Nun. Forget the Aleph. Hey, Reish, Nun, with the right mathematics is kesef. What's the math? I don't know. Do it on your own time. Okay? Now I want you to know that in Hasidus, when they talk about Aharon, they bring the point that Aaron is oisios nir Aharon ki havai yema zeh havaya nir aleichem in Parsha Shmini in the first pasuk. Havaya nir aleichem, Hashem will appear to you. This goes on kesef. It says in Hasidus is a lengthy discussion about the difference between Avraham Avinu and Aaron HaKohen. They were both chesed. Avraham is chesed of Zoh, of Atzilus, and Aaron HaKohen is chesed of kesed. So what it says here in the mathematical language of Arizal is corroborated in Hasidus in a different approach that Aaron is nir. So Vayisa Aharon, Kesed raises his hands. Okay? El Ha'am. El Ha'am is top of the second column. El Ha'am is top of the second column. El Ha'am is Begematria Chochma Ubina. Okay? That mathematics actually works. It's 146. Chochma Ubina with a Vav is 146. So Vayisa Aaron es Yodov. Aaron Kesed raises his hands over Chochma Ubina. Retzoinei Loime. This is how you have to translate it. Nasa es Yodov El Ha'am. He raised his hands to the people. Shehem Chochma Ubina, which are the levels of Chochma Ubina. And listen carefully. Vayavarachem, he blessed them. Now, Sunday night this came up a little bit. Why shouldn't it say Vayavarech? And he blessed. What is Vayavarachem? So that Arizal translates Api Kabbalah. Vayisei Aaron es Yadav. Kesef raises his hands. El Ha'am towards Chochma Ubina. Vayavarachem, and he blesses each one of them separately. Chochma separately, and Bina separately. Vayivarachem in plural means he blesses Chochmah separately, and he blesses Bina separately. Also l'chol echad parsif shalom epirkei yado levad. He made for each one Chochmah separately and Bina separately, a complete parsif, a whole image, a whole model from the sections of his fingers. L'chein kosav yadei choser, which is why the word yadei is choser. It's saying yad l'chol echad. He made a complete hand to each one. Okay, what does this mean? What does this mean? It's a very interesting idea, I think. Obviously, this is very, very vague and obtuse, and I'm not bothering to read the second half. What I didn't read is homework, okay? This is all we're going to do. It's a very, very interesting idea, I think. Okay? Remember our question. Our question is, why does it say Yodov, and why do we read it Yodov, and we say that it says Yodoi? Correct? Right? Good.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. Very good. Now, we'll get back to that. But let me digress. Okay? Everybody has learned the idea that's brought in Kabbalah and in Hasidus with a tremendous shturim. I mean, this is one of those concepts that, this is a Maggid's favorite drasha. You've heard this, I'm sure you've heard this before, about the issue of Adam and Chava. What do we know about Adam and Chava? When Adam and Chava were created, they were one. Correct? The opinion, which seems to be the predominant one in Torah, the primary opinion about Adam and Chava is that they were created as Siamese twins. This business of a rib it's Christian. It's the Christian interpretation of the Bible. Period. It's not Jewish. The Gemara proposes the possibility that Chava was created from a tail, but not a rib. There's no such daya.
Doesn't say tzala?
Tzela means a side. That's a translation of the word. Tzela means a half. But the opinion which is predominantly held in Torah is that Adam and Chava were created back to back. They shared a spine. They were two complete human beings. This is called Yichud Acher B'Acher, back to back. They were never closer together. They were one person. It's even brought in Sfarim that they could have children like this. Look at Rashi. Take out a Chumash Bereshis and look at Rashi. I know I surprise people when I tell you this, but this is the opinion of Torah. This business, but the rib has no basis in Judaism whatsoever. The Gemara brings two opinions. The second opinion was that he had a tail, and from the tail, a tail.
Who's tail? What tail?
Adam Arishan had a tail, and the Eibush took this tail and made Chava. But that's not the opinion that Rashi brings. It's not the opinion that's widely held. It's certainly not the opinion of Kabbalah.
Why is the rib theory taught?
It's not. It's ignorance. It's Pashta Maratz.
So sad.
Yeah, and it's right. It's especially because it creates such a useless disrespect. It's not what Torah says. They were created like this, back to back. It's even brought in Sfarim that they could have had children like this. As one being connected.
And they could have what?
Children. And the Eibush was called in Kabbalah Nesira. He separated them. What happens when you separate them? Adam becomes a mensch, and Chava becomes a mensch. As opposed to Adam just being one, Diu Partzufim Nivra, the Gemara Lashon is a two-faced creation. The downside is Kenegdai. Chava has her own personality, her own mind, her own free will, her own ego. Excuse me, I have no respect for you. You have respect for yourself, I have no respect for you. The upside is Ezer. They can be what's called in Chassidus, Yichud Panim B'Panim. You separate them so they can turn and face each other. Panim B'Panim. Two separate people with their own self-identity, their own free will, who come together to make a union. Right? That's why this is such a beautiful. This concept in Kabbalah is the basis for all the beautiful drushes that you teach Chos and Kalas and so forth and so on. And it's taka beautiful. The key to the successful union is the identity of each individual member of that union as a healthy, self-contained person. People cannot get together and have a good marriage if each one by themselves is a cripple. Spiritually, each one is healthy, even though it's two egos, but you have to have an ego to surrender. Nothing to surrender is not healthy. You have to have two people, each one with their own metzias. They're separated, right? Al pi Kabbalah, the neshamas are one neshama, which are separated at the time of conception, and so forth and so on. And two separate people brought together, that's a marriage. Eza connected. That's the way it's supposed to be called. Yichud panim b'panim. And the Kabbalah and Hasidus explain as follows. There's different levels. There's acher ba'acher, there's panim ba'acher, there's acher ba'panim, and there's panim ba'panim. Mystically, if Adam and Chava remain attached like this here, back to back, and there had not been the nesira, the separation, so Chava and Adam would be one person. But Chava would not be Adam's equal. Chava would be Adam's second, assistant, less. So Adam is a mashpia. Chava is a makabel. The makabel is less than the mashpia, because she's back to Adam Rishon. If the makabel is less than Adam Rishon, the offspring, the peiros, the children from their union are going to be even less. When Adam and Chava were attached back to back, al pi Kabbalah, mystically, they were never closer, but they were not equal. Chava was not as great as Adam. If Chava is not as great as Adam, she can only get from Adam Rishon what she's a keli for. And the fruit, the peiros, will be a reflection not of Adam but of Chava, and the diminution, the lessening of Chava. By separating Adam and Chava, Chava is now her own person. She's equal to Adam. She's a keli who can get everything Adam has, he can give to Chava. To use the physical analogy, everything the sun has, he gives to the moon. Right? Before the moon was diminished, the moon was receiving the sun's light, but all of the sun's light. Everything Adam has, he can give to Chava, because Chava is as great as he to take. And therefore the offspring reflect the possibility of a complete Adam, and Chava. So by separating Adam from Chava, and what's called binyan HaMalchus, there's Nesira, right? You separate it from Chava, then you build up Malchus, so you make them equal, panim equal. Malchus, the nuk for the feminine, is as great as the masculine. He has 10 sfidas, she has 10 sfidas, so he could give everything to her. She's able to receive everything, and of course the koyach ein sof is in her. She has the power of procreation. The children are created in their image. This is a classic Kabbalistic idea. This is a win-win speech. I mean, I've been in the business long enough. Everyone likes this drasha. It looks like you're surprised by it, but trust me, you've heard it before. You've just forgotten. It's a classic speech. Okay. So think about what I just said. Adam and Chava are attached back to back. Chava was never more bottled to Adam. Now, bittel's a good thing, but the bittel diminished her. Because the bittel diminished her because she wasn't a makabel. It's not a makabel. Makabel has to be an equal. So lessen the bittel. Make them equal. And then Chava volunteers for the bittel. So then there's a complete hashpah on every level from Adam to Chava. Adam gives everything the Eibishter gives him to Chava, and Chava is able to create children in the image of Adam and Chava as the Eibishter wishes. This is the idea. So understand what happens. Separating Adam from Chava from Adam is step one. Right? You separate Chava from Adam. What's step two? Now that you've separated Chava from Adam, Chava becomes her own Metzias. Chava is her own person. She's not subordinate, she's not secondary, she's not just bittel. She's her own person. She's equal to Adam Erish. This is called binyan HaMalchus. You separate to create a deeper union. That's the model. That's the idea. You separate Chava from Adam, which seems like, oh no, they're going further and further away. But the result of going further and further away is that they could meet on terms that are really equal. It's a real, complete relationship. Between when you separate Chava from Adam and you rejoin Adam to Chava, this is called binyan. She has to be able, but she's equal. She's equal to her husband. Okay? Now, let's go back to the Arizal. The Arizal says that Aaron gave a blessing to the Jewish people. Okay? He gave a blessing to the Jewish people. He gave a blessing to the Jewish people. Now, I'm sure that happened physically. Aaron, whether he stood on the Mizbech or off the Mizbech, that's a technical detail. He gave Yidden a Bracha. But the Arizal says The bracha that Aaron gave happens on every level, including on a mystical level. Okay? On a mystical level, everything goes in relationships, right? Right? I hope you know this already. Everybody learns Kabbalah, right? Everything goes, it's all about yichud, relationships. Everything goes in mashpia makabel. The whole Seder, the Shtalshus goes in a model of mashpia makabel, masculine and feminine, giver and receiver. And of course, the catch is that the power to create is in the feminine, not in the masculine. The masculine only can make proposals, but the koyach ein sof, we can make suggestions, but the koyach ein sof is in the nukva. That's the way the relationship is set up. So her maile is because she has bittul, she has ein sof, she has atmos, and she can procreate. That's basically the model. Okay. Now, in the most basic sense, that's Yidden and the Eibishter. The Eibishter is the husband, and we are the wives, or the wife, collectively. Okay? Right? Understand that we're smaller than the Eibishter. Right? Can we all agree? Right? Yeah. Right. Okay. Now, if we're smaller than the Eibishter, what we can begot, the offspring, the fruit that we can bring into this world, are not a reflection of the Eibishter. They're a reflection of us. Hashem can plant as many seeds as He wishes. If our garden is not fertile enough, it won't grow. Right? The Eibishter has a relationship with Yidden, and we produce fruit in this world. Those fruit don't reflect the Eibishter's possibility to give. They reflect our ability to take. So Aaron stands in the Mizbeach, and he gives a bracha to Chochma and Bina. Chochma and Bina means the Eibishter and us. Okay? Vayisa Yadav. He raises his hands. El Ha'am to Chochma and Bina. Vayavarachem. Vayachem means he blesses them. Translates the Arizal. Them doesn't mean all those Jews. Them means Hashem separately and Yidden separately. Vayavarachem means he blesses Chochma separately, which is an allusion to Holocaust, and Bina separately, which is Knesset Yisrael, Yidden. Why? Because he wants that Yidden and the Eibishter Kvayochel, so to speak, should be equal. So that Kvayochel, everything the Eibishter has to give, we're able to receive. And if everything the Eibishter gives, we take, the creation that comes from this union is perfect, is whole and complete. So that Arizal gives us a mystical interpretation to the Parsha. And I think the most important word is the word Vayavarachem. It should say Vayisi Yadav Elam Vayavarach. Vayavarachem, he blesses them. Says Arizal, them doesn't mean all the Yidden. Them means the Yidden, Bina, and the Eibishter, Chochma. But the Arizal says, I want you to understand, it's not one bracha. It's two distinct brachas. He gave one bracha to Chochma and a second bracha to Bina. Because he wishes that each one should be whole. And he reads it into the Yodoi Yodav issue. He raises, the pasuk says, he raised his hands. And we read it as if it says he raised his hand in singular. He raised his hand. Huh?
We read hands.
We read hands. We pronounce hands. And it's written hand. It says he, what does it mean? He raised both of his hands physically. But he raised both of his hands in such a way that he gave a complete hand to each one. Yodoi Vayavarachem. He gave a complete hand to each one of the two. Let's read the words again. Okay? El Ha'am, top of the second page, page 15, where I circled El Ha'am, Keminyin Chochma Ubina. He blesses Chochma Ubina. Skip the parenthesis. It's in Alema. This means Nasas Yadav Elam. He raises his hand to the people. Page 15. Shem Chochma Ubina, which are a combination of Chochma Ubina. And the way I'm reading it is Chochma is the Eibishter. And Bina is Yidden. Vayavarachem, and he blesses them separately. Asa l'chol echad. He makes for Chochma separately and for Bina separately. Parts of Sholem mepirkei Yadav Levad. A complete form from the Pirkei means the digits of his fingers alone. V'lachein kosav yadei chaser. That's why the word yadei is written without the extra yud, which would make them plural. It's saying alema yad l'chol echad. He gives a portion to each one. So how are you translating the word yad now? Yad doesn't mean a hand. Yad means a portion. the word yad means a hand, right? But there are occasions, there are circumstances. For example, right? It says in the pasuk that Yosef HaTzadik. Remember Yosef HaTzadik? He finally reveals himself to his brothers, right? And they hug and they kiss and they cry. The whole Egypt knows about it. And then he gave them gifts, right? And it says in the Lashon HaPasuk that Binyamin, he gave Chamisha Yadis, 5 hands. What's the translation of Chamisha Yadis? So she says 5 portions. He gave each one of his brothers a gift. He gave Binyamin 5 gifts. What was the cheshbon of 5 gifts? He gave Binyamin a gift for Binyamin, and for Yosef, and for Osnas, and for Menashe, and for Ephraim. This is Chumash Rashi. So the word Yad means a chelik, a portion. It says the Arizal Vayisa Yodoi. He raises a portion, Vayavarachem. He gives a complete portion to each one of the 2. He doesn't want to give one bracha to Chachma and Bina together. Because if he gave one bracha to Chachma and Bina together, Bina would get less of a bracha than Chachma. If Bina gets less of a bracha than Chachma, Bina is not an equal partner to Chachma. You follow? Yeah, and if you don't understand, please tell me. So he translates the pasuk as Vayisa Yadav. He raises both of his hands, but it's written Vayisa Yadai El Ha'am. He raises a portion to each one of El Ha'am, to Chachma separately and to Bina separately. Vayavarachem. He gives each one of them separately a complete bracha, so that Chachma and Bina shouldn't be unequal. Bina shouldn't be less than Chachma. Bina should be equal to Chachma. So that Bina is like Papa Makabah. So the translation of the word Yodai, according to the Arizal, is a chelik. Yodav means his hand, and Yodai, the kri, it's written. The ksiv, it's written Yodai because he gave a separate portion to Chachma and a separate portion to Bina.
Didn't the whole incident with Adam and Chava, didn't that create the whole idea that it's already separate and that they're equal between us and Hashem, or only?
Why does that have to keep on happening?
Yeah. Like, why did he have to give them? Why wasn't it not self-understood, but like a continuation of what we started?
Obviously, there's different levels and there's different aspects. It's not a problem. It's not a problem. I can't answer you directly because I don't know. But it's not. In other words, the Beis Hamikdash is being built. There's a different kind of relationship with the Eibishter in the world, so it needs a new brach. There's a lot of aspects and dimensions and so forth and so on. And
the bracha had to come from us.
From Aharon HaKohen.
From Aaron.
Because he's Kesed. He's higher than Chachma and Bina. And because he's higher than Chachma and Bina, he's able to give this bracha to Chachma and Bina. Okay? Go ahead.
According to the Arizal, is it the Birkat Kohanim that's being said, or just a bracha
We
in
have
general?
no idea.
Okay.
He doesn't mention.
Right, okay.
Now, according to the Arizal, now I want you to know that when I was preparing this class, I couldn't decide what should I do first, Maimed or Arizal. I kept jumping back and forth. Let's reset ourselves, okay? Let's reset ourselves. Aaron is giving Yidden a bracha. He's raising his hands and giving Yidden a bracha. One way or another, he's a kohen. He's giving Yidden a bracha. In fact, we learn from this the idea of a kohen raising his hands and blessing the Jewish people. Okay? This is the halacha of Birchas Kohanim. Kohen raises his hands, and a regular kohen, with the exception of a kohen gadol, he raises his hands above his head. Kohen gadol is not allowed. Above, higher than his head. Okay, he raises and he blesses. So he raises both hands, and he blesses the Jewish people, and it's described in the Torah as being one hand. Correct? Why? So the reason says because he gave one hand to Chachma and a separate hand to Bina, but a complete hand. So the word hand means a portion. So the Lashon Yachid Yadai doesn't mean one hand. It means a whole section, a whole shtick, a whole piece. The bottom line is there's 2 Yadais. There's 2 one hands. There's a complete hand he's giving to Chachma, to the Mashpia, and there's a complete one hand that he's giving to the Makab. Correct? Right? We move on to the Maimed now. The Maimer begins on page 18. This is a very involved Maimer. It's a long Maimer. It's a sweet Maimer. And I did most of my scribble today. Whatever you see scribbled is my way of proving to you that I actually learned through this Maimer. I need to give you an introduction so that we can get to the issue we need to get to as quickly as possible. Okay? Oh, did you take a copy on Sunday night?
Yeah, I
To
have.
give it to me.
You want it?
I'm going to fix it for you.
I have a marks on it. I have notes. Oh, thank you. See?
This is a maimer that compares and contrasts netilas yodayim to birchas kohanim. Okay? When we wash our hands, it's not a kabad custom, but you should know in some kehilas kadishas b'Yisrael, you wash your hands and you say, "Su'u yedechem kedish yavachas hadeshem baruch atah hadeshem l'keinu melchei olam asher kedishonu b'mitzvayis v'zivon al tel shadayim." Before you say the bracha, in some kehilas kadishas b'Yisrael, you say, "Su'u yedechem kedish," raise your hands to holiness, u'baruch was Hashem, and bless the Eibishter, and then you say the bracha. It's not our custom. But whether we say the words or not, when you wash your hands, you're supposed to raise your hands. How high is a question. But not above your head. When a kohen duchens, he raises his hands above his head. Here's a mimer from the Rebbe Rashab from Taf Reish Ayin Zayin 1917, where he analyzes the distinction between the raising of the hands for washing for bread, washing your hands at Tilas Yadayim, and raising of your hands at Bechas Kohen. Okay? And I'll make it brief. The hands represent the human emotions. Okay? The hands represent the human emotions. Human emotions are a good thing. Right? Right.
How hands present human
Because they're the level of the midas.
Okay, thank you.
Chesed droya yamina, gevura droya small. Every Sfadi knows Pasach Aliyah by heart. And those are make the boot. Wait. But emotions can get carried away. Right? Emotions have a tendency to go polar. That means to say, you get into a certain mood, and it's a runaway train. If I'm going to be kind, and be kind till I hurt myself. If I'm going to be judgmental and, quote, fair and equitable, I'm going to become a cruel person. So the emotions have to be, what's the word? Curtailed. They have to be controlled. Emotions are very important. We are emotional beings. We are not cold intellectuals. We live our lives based on how we feel. But our emotions need to be harnessed. Our emotions need to be not suppressed, chas v'shalom, not shut up, but controlled. So the pasuk says, you wash your hands, right? Netilas yadayim. And the word netil doesn't only mean to wash, it actually means to raise. Your hands. Okay? The purpose of washing your hands represents the emotions. Su'u yedechem kodesh, you're raising your hands to kodesh. Kodesh is chokhmah. You want to bring your emotions in touch with your intellect, with your mind. Or you want your intellect to quiet your emotions. It doesn't mean to shut them up. It just means that the mind is much more calm. The mind is much more collected. The mind is much more open. The brain can actually tolerate two opposites. The heart cannot. So you're going to experience emotions, whether it's love, or it's judgmentalism, or whatever, severity, precision, whatever the emotion is going to be, and you're going to quiet the emotions. You're going to soften the emotions with the mind. That's the concept of Netilas Yadayim. The concept of Netilas Yadayim is you're taking your emotions, you're quieting them, you're muffling them, you're softening them, so that they shouldn't become excessive. They shouldn't become hyper. They shouldn't become out of control. This is the concept of Netilas Yadayim. That's all. So the Maimah says, on the bottom of page Kuf Ayin Aleph, which I'm not going to read you, that if you think about it, the relationship between the hands and Kodesh. What a person does to his emotions or her emotions in the process of Netilas Yadayim, the concept and idea of Netilas Yadayim is they're actually quieting the emotions. You have hands represent emotions. Emotions are expressed. They're loud, they're external, they're on the outside. The Netilas Yadayim is to make the emotions less expressed, quieter. That's the model of Netilas Yadayim. That's the first half of the Maimer. Now duchening. What's Berachas Kohanim? What happens when a person duchenes? So the Rebbe goes into a very, very interesting conversation, which is truly a classic conversation. I mean, I've heard it myself from the Rebbe on more than one occasion, which begins on page Kufayim Beis. If you look in Kufayim Beis, I made you 3 boxes. Page 20. Page 20. I just summarized the first half of the Maimer, by the way. Okay, page 20. He speaks about 3 things. On the right side, Kufayim Beis, he speaks about Bracha. On the bottom of the page, he speaks about Tefillah. And on the Kufayim Gimel, on the left side of the page, he speaks about Berachas Kohanim. I don't have time, and you don't have time. And of course, the long form, you're going to sit in Mitzvah until next Sunday night and learn it, because nobody has anything to do in this world besides learn what I teach. Of course, right? Yeah. You'll do what you have to. He speaks about Bracha and Tefillah. What's the difference between Bracha and Tefillah? Bracha means a blessing. Tefillah means a prayer. And he says like this. Bracha is from the word hamavrich, to draw down, to bring down. The assumption in a bracha, when somebody gives a bracha, when you go to tzaddikim for a bracha, for a blessing, all the tzaddik is doing is he has access to the spiritual realms. He can go into your bank account, into your spiritual reservoir, and see what's there and bring it down. A bracha means to bring down from a spiritual level to a material level the possibility that the Eibush has blessed you with. And if you look on your page, I made an aleph and a gimel and a beis and a gimel because the Rebbe speaks about 3 qualitative categories of bracha. One, the aleph is from one world to another, beis is from seva kalam to malak kalam, and gimel is from lifnei tzimtzum to lacharat tzimtzum. The aleph, beis, and gimel on the right side of your page. But bracha means to bring down something good from a higher level to a lower level that's already existed in a higher level. It says the Maimer, when you give a bracha, you're not creating anything. You're not doing anything new. You're simply taking something which exists on a spiritual level and manifesting it. That's all. The good news about a bracha is it's a sure thing. If you know how to give a bracha, it works. Why? Because you don't have to create. You simply have to access. Bring it down. Shay. Tefillah is the exact opposite. The essence of tefillah is yehi ratzon, to create a new want, a new will in Hashem, so to speak. In other words, a tzaddik goes into somebody's spiritual bank account and realizes, chas v'sholom, which never happened to anybody ever knew, they're not supposed to have children. So a bracha for children is not going to work. A bracha for children works if you're supposed to have kids and the wires are crossed, the plumbing is clogged, so the tzaddik brings the bracha down. But if a person is not supposed to have kids, you have to create a new will, klayach, so to speak, in the Eibishter, that there should be and it's called prayer. So bracha is bringing down what already is. Tefillah is creating something new, creating something original. Okay? Says the Maimer, the model of bracha, the theme, the concept, the idea of a bracha, is to bring something down from a higher level to a lower level. However, the higher level and the lower level are close. Not so far apart. And the proof is that what exists in the higher level is already connected to the lower level. Because all you have to do is give a bracha. It's already there. Just bringing it from here to here, it's a technicality, so to speak. Tefillah, prayer. Since there's a yehi ratzon, you're creating a new will, so to speak, from the Eibishter to bring the bracha down. Okay? You have to daven. Translates the Rebbe, what is davening? And he gives you 2 ideas. The first idea is that when a Yid davens, he davens with passion. Avat Hashem and Yirat Hashem. And I circle the words Ba'ava v'Yirah. And the second idea is that a Yid davens with Ru'usa D'Liba. Ru'usa D'Liba is with Mesinas Nefesh. In other words, in practical words, when a Jew davens, and the concept of a prayer is what? Not to bring something that's here down, to create a new Ratzon Kvayachal Lamaila for a bracha from the Eibishter. For this, you need to have bittul. You have to subjugate yourself, to give yourself away. So to quickly summarize, bracha means to bring down from a spiritual level to a material level something that already is. Tefillah means to create a new Ratzon, which means you're going to a much higher place and you have to submit yourself. What's Birchas Kohanim? The priestly blessing. What's the priestly blessing? The priestly blessing is the best of both. It's a tefillah that's effective like a bracha. Birchas Kohanim, according to Hasidus, has a koyach to create a new ratzon. But the certainty of the effectiveness of Birchas Kohanim is that though we're a bracha. Let me repeat technically. Okay? What's the mile of a bracha? What's the advantage of a bracha? That it surely works because it's already been deposited in the bank account. You just bring it down. What's the chasar of bracha? You can only bring down what's already in the bank account. What's the mile of tefillah? The mile of tefillah is you can create new wills. What's the chasar of tefillah? Sometimes Hashem says no. Right? So there's an upside, the downside to each. The upside of bracha that it for sure works. The downside of bracha, it only works if the Eibush already gave it to you. The upside of tefillah is you can create a new will in the Eibush. The downside of tefillah doesn't always work. Birchas Kohanim is a tefillah that works like a bracha. You can create a new will in Hashem and it's guaranteed. It for sure works. And on this basis, the Maimer delves into our discussion. What happens? Aaron goes up on the Mizbeach. He brings karbanos. And he raises his hand and he blesses the Jewish people. What is the significance of this? Now forget everything you learned till now. Please, erase your memory. Bring it back in 10 minutes or 15 minutes. A clean slate. Don't presuppose. Don't fit him into Rashi or even into the Arizal. Everything you learned, forget. He goes on his Mizbeach, he brings karbanos, and he raises his hands and he blesses the Jewish people. So there's a Gemara. The Gemara says, whenever Jewish people pray, the Chazan says Birchas Kohanim. When? After.
Only by Shach we say by Mincha.
On a fast day you say by Mincha. There's a reason you don't say by Mincha because of Shikras. On a fast day you say by Mincha too.
What's the reason you don't say by Mincha usually?
Because of Shikras. Shikras. Because in the morning you haven't eaten yet, in the afternoon you could be drunk. On a fast day you say by Mincha, Yom Kippur you say by Ne'ilah also. Technically you could do Birchas Kohanim by each tefillah. And the last two pages of this stack is a very, very difficult Rogatchover that talks about all this. How many times you do it? Once a day, many times, which I'm not going to learn with you, but I put it there just to make the stack look.
Is it because Kohen from a Yachid, somebody Kohen comes to you and blesses you, is it also effective from according one?
It's a good thing. If it's this effective, ask your local rabbi, and I'm not local.
It's only talking
Not a rabbi.
about, that means it's only effective because coming from the Maidim, when it's 10, more than 10.
Yan Yiz Nayo. I don't know. In my more cynical moments, I would say, tell me what you want me to say and I'll tell it to you. Lost. A good question is always better than a poor answer. Don't forget that.
That's right.
The Gemara says, when do we do? After Avodah. Does anybody know what Avodah is?
Service of the Kohen.
Let's say.
Oh.
We have 19 Brachas Shmini Esrei. We have 19 Brachas Shmini Esrei. Each bracha has a label. The first bracha is called Oves, fathers. The second bracha is called Gevures, strength. The third bracha is called Kedusha, holiness. The fourth bracha is called Das, and so forth. The 17th bracha, sorry?
Can we have a class on it?
You have to find the forum. It's a lot of work. I gave a few classes on Tefillah last year. The 17th bracha is called Avodah. The 18th bracha is called Hoida'ah. And the 19th bracha is called Shalom. The 17th bracha begins how? Ritzei ad Hashem Elokeinu ba'amcha Yisrael. Hashem should be Ritzei, should find favor in His nation. V'lis filasam she'ei. He should heed their prayer. What's the next words? V'hashev ha'avoida l'dvir beisecha. Hashem should bring back the avodah in the Beis HaMikdash. Ritzei is the 17th bracha Shmini Esrei. Say, Eibishter, today take my tefillas, tomorrow take my korban. That's what the bracha is about. Okay? So the Gemara says, when do you duchen? After avodah. Okay? Why do you duchen after avodah? Because Aaron duchened after avodah. Aaron brought karbanis, he stood on the mizbeach, he raised his hands, and he blessed the Jewish people. So far so good?
Wow.
So the Gemara learns halachas of duchening from this parsha.
Wow.
Even though most of the opinions that we encountered said he wasn't duchening at all, or it's not the same duchening, the Gemara learns the halachas of duchening from this parsha. When a kohen duchen, he raises his hands. How do you know? It says in Parsha Shmini, not in Parsha Moshe. When do you duchen? You bring a carbon and you bless a Jew. You daven to the Eibishter and you bless a Jew. You say avodah and you bless a Jew. Frag the Gemara. But we don't duchen after avodah. With another one in the middle. We say moedim. Well, how does the Ritzei finish? The Ritzei is called avodah. The 17th bracha is called the Ritzei. How does it finish? Baruch atah Hashem, ha'machazir shchinosei l'tzion. Moedim anachnu. After moedim, ha'toiv shimcha l'cha no l'hoitis, then we duchen. So the Gemara says, whoa. Aaron got up on the mizbeach. He brought karbanis, and he duchened. He didn't say moedim in the middle. How come we wait with the duchening till after moedim? You follow? This is what right? So now, if you could look on page Kufay Gimel, which is page 20 on your left. Now I know you had the same scribbles as I do because I made the scribbles before I copied this. So it says, in the middle, in the center, it says Birchas Kohanim. And then to the left, it says, Vihine habracha de Birchas Kohanim. Do I have your attention, please? Right? You see, Vihine habracha de bracha, but the second one is abbreviated, page 20. Right here. Right there.
18 lines from the bottom.
Vihine habracha de Birchas Kohanim. The blessing of the priestly blessing has a k'minyan tefillah, has the mile of a tefillah as well. It's a bracha, means it's a sure thing. It's a tefillah because it creates a ratzon chodesh. Says the Rebbe like this: Vihine Birchas Kohanim. The Chazal tell us the halacha is the priestly blessing kavua was fixed achar hedah, after moedim. Why? Zokter al shem apostle, because it says in our parsha, Aaron raises his hands. When does he raise his hands? He brought karbanis. And prayer is the same thing as karbanis. After he brought the karbanis, he doesn't even get off the mizbeach. He raises his hands and he blesses the Jewish people. We daven to the Eibishter, which is equal to karbanis. You raise your hands and you bless the Jewish people. Says the Gemara. This is a question, a Talmudic question. If we're trying to learn when to duchen from the Beis HaMikdash, Aaron brings a carbon, correct? Aaron brings a carbon. After you bring a carbon, duchen. After you say the tzei, which speaks about davening, duchen. We squeeze moedim in the middle. So the Gemara, why? And for the Gemara, answers the Gemara, Aveda Veda Chada Mil Sehi. Davening and Heda, which means acceptance and submission to the Eibishter, are one and the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay? Let me review. Whatever we learned till now, I don't know. I just know one thing. Aaron brought a carbon and he blessed the Jewish people. From this we learn, after you speak about davening, you bless the Jewish people. And then the Gemara says, why is Moedim in the middle? Well, Moedim is like Kabbalas. Why? Now, we're still within a week of Purim. Right? So let me give you one of my standard Purim speeches. I don't think I gave it to you. I didn't give it to you. I gave it to women in the morning. Some of you in the morning, you heard this from me. When you have, I'm bringing Purim into the scheme, okay? And you'll see in a moment the significance of this. When you have Rosh Chodesh, you have Pesach, you have Sukkot, what do you say? Ya'aleh v'yaveh, right? In which bracha is Ya'aleh v'yaveh? In Avodah, in the blessing about Karbonis and about Davening. Chanukah and Purim, you don't say Ya'aleh v'yaveh in Chanukah and Purim. Why not? Oh, boring. It's too generic. It's too standard. I gave a class to some people, and I brought in the Kisvei Arizal, who explains exactly what I'm telling you. And when do you say Vala Nisim? Not in Avodah. In Heidah. Not in the 17th Bracha Shmini Esrei, in the 18th Bracha Shmini Esrei. Why? For Pesach, for Sukkot, for Rosh Chodesh, the Yalva Yahweh, in Avodah, the Bracha about davening. Alanis is also great miracles. It's holidays. We celebrate Hashem from the nest and so forth and so on. Why is it in the 18th Bracha, which is called Moedim? Okay, and the answer is very simple and very beautiful. Avodah means to pray. Heidah means to submit. What's the difference between prayer and submission? Prayer is much more emotional. Prayer is much more involved. Prayer is much more sophisticated. Submission is simple. I can't even pray. I'm not smart enough. I don't know enough. I don't know the words. I submit. Chanukah and Purim are Golos Yom Tovs. Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot are Geula Yom Tovs. So we mention Pesach and Shavuos and Sukkot and Pesach and Sukkot and Rosh Chodesh in Avodah, because since they're Geula Yom Tovs, the nature of the Yom Tov and the nature of the celebration is sophisticated. We feel, we experience a connection to the Eibishter. Chanukah and Purim are Yom Tovim of Golos, the Yom Tovim of Mesiras Nefesh. The essence of that Yom Tov was not Avodah, it was Eidah. The essence of Chanukah and Purim is not we felt so intimate with Hashem, we submitted. Therefore, Yehudim. Therefore, Pesach and Sukkot and Rosh Chodesh, you recognize in Avodah because it's a Yom Tov that's a sophisticated Yom Tov. Involves a sophisticated connection between Yid and the Eibishter. Chanukah and Purim you say in Heidah because it's a simple submission to the Eibishter. But you see, the simple submission of Moedim is deeper than the sophisticated submission of Avodah. Get the point? In the 17th Bracha Shmini Esrei, which is a bracha about davening is a sophisticated bracha. You thank Hashem for a Yom Tov that was involved. It was a meaningful connection between Yidden and the Eibishter. Purim and Chanukah, Golos Yomim Tevim. The whole story was simple Mesiras Nefesh. We did Haidah to Hashem. We celebrate the Yom Tov in a vehicle of Haidah. In Moedim, we say Val Nisim. And then according to Kabbalah, Val Nisim is Netzach Chayid in Yesoid, as opposed to Chesed Gevurah Teferes. Rosh Chodesh and Pesach and Sukkot is Chagas, and Val Nisim is Netzach and Hoid. And the Val Nisim is the whole thing up in Kabbalah, why Val Nisim is Netzach and Hoid. Nes is 110, which is Havaya Admai. Long story, it all fits. The mathematics is exact.
Purim one and Hanukkah the other?
Yeah.
Which Netzach is Hanukkah?
I forget at the moment. Okay? Now, let's wind back the tape. Okay? Aaron HaKohen goes up in the Mizbeach, he brings a korban. He blesses the Jews. We learn from this, after you daven, you bless Jews. Now, there's a lot of ways of looking at davening. Our Maimer says, davening is submission. Davening is submission. There's a lot of ways of looking at davening. Davening is to give yourself to the Eibishter. So then you scratch your head and say, wait a minute. If davening is submission, so then what's the difference between Avodah and Heidah? Did I lose you yet? If davening means I'm giving myself to the Eibishter, and Moedim means I'm giving myself to the Eibishter, what's the difference? So the Maimon explains, there's two things. There's Hoid and Hoid Shebahoid. Sometimes you submit to Hashem. You know what you're submitting to, and you submit. Sometimes you're submitting and you don't even know what. To what? It's called Hoid Shebahoid. And as it turns out, it seems, davening is a submission to Lakus. You know what you're submitting to, but you have to submit. Moedim is called Hoid Shebahoid. I'm submitting and I don't even know to what I'm submitting. In other words, Moeday v'Rabosai. What is Berachas Kohanim? What is Berachas Kohen? What is Berachas Kohen? A Kohen blesses a Jew, creates a new will in Hashem, which will surely bring a bracha. Right? Remember the background. When you give a person Berachas Kohanim, there's two strengths. You're creating a new will, and it's certainly going to work. Creating a new will, that's the Ma'ila of Tefillah. It's certainly going to work, it's the Ma'ila of Bracha. How? Avodah. Submission. How? Heidah, submission within submission. Says the Gemara, Aaron went on the Mizbeach, brought karbanas, and duchent. Wait a minute, how come we don't duchen after avodah? We say Heidah, because Heidah is even better than davening at what davening is. If avodah is Haid, Heidah is Haidche b'Haid. And when a Kohen duchens and blesses a Jew, and he knows for sure the blessing is going to be effective, what's the prerequisite? What's the significance of a carbon before Birchas Kohenim? Bittul. You follow? And this is more in Maidim than it is in Avodah. So did we learn from this Parsha, Mar Pasuk, a most interesting thing? There's a lot of ways of explaining a carbon. If you were here last week and 2 weeks, we spent 4 classes exploring carbonas. Of course, we only scratched the surface. Says our Maimed, the insight into a carbon is to give yourself away to the Eibishter. And you don't even know what you're giving yourself away to. Just give yourself away to the Eibishter. This surrender, this giving yourself away to the Eibishter completely, is a foundation, is a basis for a bracha which has both the mile of bracha and the mile of tefillah. Birchas Kohanim is a certainty, and Birchas Kohanim is a tefillah because it comes after karbonas. So Aaron HaKohen is standing on the Mizbeach. It's a whole new interpretation of the story, God. Right? According to Rech Chaim HaKadosh, according to Rashi, there's an apprehension and there's a worry and there's an ambivalence. What happens if the Eibishter doesn't forgive me? All the Jews are going to suffer because of me. Aaron is standing on that Mizbeach. He just brought karbonas. When the Chassidus teaches us, Odom ki Yaakov mikem, he didn't just sacrifice a couple of animals. He gave himself to the Eibishter. Aaron at that moment felt so bottled to Hashem. Now you bless Jews because it works. Aaron was in a madrege of a carbon. He was completely given. When he brought those animals, he gave himself, yes? Now you bless a Yid because this submission, this avodah called Hoid, and this Hoidah called a Hoidche b'Hoid creates the proper keli that the bracha that you give is going to be effective. So he doesn't even get off the Mizbeach. He stands on the Mizbeach and he gives it in the bracha. Okay? Now I want to remind you, this whole topic revolves around a very technical question. We read it Yadav and it says Yadoi. Remember?
Yeah.
He raised both of his hands and it's described as a single hand. So the Arizal tells us that he gave a whole hand to Chochmah and a whole hand to Bina, right? Let's see what the Maimer says. Page 21 on the left. Okay, here. It's the line. It's. You see, I wrote here my handwriting. If I was sure what I wrote myself, I'd be able to tell you. Say from at Kufay base. The line that begins with the word Ho'aliyah. It's about 11 or 12 lines from the end of the Maimer. And we're going to read straight now. Okay, Vehine. Be'berchas koyanim ksiv. When it comes to duchening, to the power of the blessing of a kohen, it's written. Vani avarachem. Hashem blesses. Skip the parenthesis. Says the Rebbe Yeshloima, what does it mean? Vani avarachem shezehu. This is a blessing that comes from the Eibishter himself, from the highest levels. Vani avarachem means Atmas the most Eibishter Birchas Kohanim comes from the highest levels, and because it comes from such high levels, this combination of tefillah, creating a new ratzon, and bracha, a certainty, are effective. Okay? Birchas Kohanim reaches the highest madrigas. Now, remember, by Netilas Yadayim you raise your hands till here. By duchening you raise your hands above your head, because when you do on Netilas Yadayim you're just raising your emotions to your intellectual level. When you're duchening you're raising your hands above your head because you're going far beyond Chabad. The idea of a bracha Birchas Kohanim is that you're reaching a level of Atmos, Vani. But there's a prerequisite. Before you duchen, you pray. Before you duchen, you submit. Veda and Heidah. Okay? So the Vani Avarachem reaches the highest madrigas. Now scoot down 4 lines to the next vertical line. V'zeu shekosav Yodai. You see Yodai is circled? You see? And the Pasuk says Yodai, Yadach, one hand. Why? Because when you do Netilas Yadayim, you're only raising your hands till Chochmah, it's 2 hands. Chesed and Gevurah. So Yedechem Kodesh. When you raise your hands till Atzmos, up there are no kavim. And the highest levels, there are no divisions. There's no right side, there's no left side, there's no center, there's unity. Yad achas, one hand, liyos. The explanation is very simple. Since shahali yu b'chinas atik, you're lifting up your hands to the level of kesed, v'sham lei smolo. In kesed, there's no left side, there's only one. Vayisa yodoi, Aaron takes his two hands and raises them to a place where two hands are one.
Wow.
Okay? You know that it says in Chassidus, in Maidim, ki me'olam kivinu lach. What does kivinu lach mean? You know what kivinu lach means? Kavim, kava yamin, kava smil, kava emtza. Ki me'olam. From the beginning of olam, as you have kivinu lach, you have kavim. In Atmos, there's no kavim. It's one. He raises the kavim, yodov, the right hand and the left hand, to a place where two becomes one. It goes to a place where there's no division. Achdus. So you read it as many, because he's raising both of his hands. But it's written as one. He's lifting them to a level where there's no divisions. This is where the koyach of Bechas Kohanim comes from. But don't forget that the key is what you do before. The Aveda Neidah sets the stage for the effectiveness of Bechas Kohanim. Okay? V'sham le'ismala b'hayatik v'chulu. There's no left side in Atik. The Ischalkos Chesed the Gevurah, the separation of a right hand and a left hand, kindness and strength, who b'seider Ishtalshos, is in the realm of Kavim, of Ishtalshos. V'gam, and he goes into some Kabbalah stuff. V'gam b'chinas ratzon, yesh b'chinas midas shem ratzon v'choli. Avo ba'atik lei smala b'hayatik v'choli. In Atik, there is one. Okay? Now remember that Rabbeinu B'chaya getting so upset? He raised only one hand? No. He raised both hands. Remember? Right? And the Rabbeinu B'chaya says, sure, he raised both hands. But the right hand predominated. He raised both hands, but the right hand predominated. The chesed became stronger than the gavura. Now we're discovering he raised the two hands until they became one. Correct? So then the question becomes, so let the kli also be yodoi. It should be written and pronounced the same way. Vayisa yodoi. Why do you write it a hand and you read it hands? Here comes the most important part of this whole situation. Va'akriu yadav, but you still pronounce it as if it says hands in plural. Why? Because you want to bring it down. Shegam b'seider ishtalshlos, also into the level of ishtalshlos, where there is a right side and there is a left side. Yihi yagili zevachuli, should bring down this revelation. V'zavayisa arid, he raises takeh. He raises his hands to a level where the many hands become one. And he brings down that level to the place where his hands are two. He raises his hands to a level where two hands become one, but doesn't leave it there. He brings it down to the place where the one becomes two again. It should come down into Ishtalshlos. What's special about Bechas Kohanim is not only it goes to a very high level, but that you bring it down. In other words, the essence of the difference between Netilas Yadayim and Bechas Kohanim, Netilas Yadayim is you're raising your hands, they should stay up. Bechas Kohanim, you're raising your hands, they shouldn't stay up, they should come back down. So you raise up the hands to a place where two is one, and then you bring down that oneness into your two hands. That's why it's written hand and it's pronounced hands. It's not only because you're raising the hands to a level of one, but then you're bringing the one down to a level of kavim, kivinu. The klolus inyan bechas koyanim, because the content of bechas koyanim is the bechinas atzmos himself, the Eibishter himself, the essence of Elokus, the shamurak bechinas haidah lavad, which we're able to submit to, and not only the submission of avodah called hoid, but the submission of moedim called hoid shebehoid, yeh bechinas amshacha bechinas gili v'chot, to be brought back down, and that's the pshat in the pasuk. A whole beautiful insight into this pash, right? Notice that Arizal and the Maimon have nothing in common. And the key difference is that the Arizal says Yadei, one hand, two times. He gave each one a whole hand, correct? And the Rebbe says, the Maimon is saying it's only one hand. Where Bechas Kohanim reaches only one hand. And the way you read the story is, Aaron standing on the Mizbeach. He just was Makav Kabbalas. He gave himself to the Eibishter. Now you bless Jews. He raises his hands to a place where there's only one hand and brings that down into the world, and into the kavim, into the channels of Yamin, Shmel, and Emtza. the Eibish's bracha for Matzah Moshe should come down into the world.
So
That's
could
the
the
Parsha.
Arizal be describing that second part?
Both, right. It's describing raising the two to the one and then bringing the one back down into the two. So it has to be Yadoi and Yadov. Perfect. Okay.